Hey everyone, welcome back to the Wimpy Studio. Today I'm here with the 5th episode of Wimpy Studio News and Reviews podcast. Today I'm going to be covering episodes 4, 5, and 6 of Andor Season 2, episode 4 of When Hope Calls Season 2, the latest Marvel movie Thunderbolts, and the news that Heartland has been renewed for Season 19, as well as just a few political things going on in the world right now. Sorry this is a day late, but I've had a sore throat. I kind of still have one. It's definitely better today, so I'm just going to go ahead and record this, get it out there, especially before the new episodes of Andor drop tomorrow night. So let's just start off with Andor, because unfortunately, I found these episodes overall somewhat boring. And, you know, I went back and watched Season 1, and I think Season 1 had a few boring episodes in there, but it did a pretty good job at spreading the story across the 12 episodes and keeping you engaged each episode. And I think part of that too is when you have the weekly release, there's usually one or two big or somewhat big things that happen each episode that you can savor on. But the pacing of this season, you would think that there will be a lot happening each week for you to really, enjoy and love and talk about and think over. But unfortunately, it hasn't really been that. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff happening. Like these 3 episodes, a lot happened to a degree. But it's a lot of dialogue. It's a lot of setup. It's definitely way more, at Season 1 at this point, we had already been through so much of the plot. And now it feels definitely slower for Season 2. And maybe I'm viewing it, not in the right way. But to me, that's the way I see it. So each of these, there's a year. Each of these 3 episode arcs or whatever is supposed to be a year in time, which I think also makes it a bit confusing to follow, just the timeline, because Season 1 was so, the timeline made a lot more sense, and it was, tighter in time. It didn't cover a whole lot of time, but now in Season 2, we're just jumping around so much. So, Episode 4 starts off, Cassian and Bix are living together on Coruscant, and Luthen's kind of, nearby, roaming in and out. I mean, he's still the kind of that character that's just kind of in and out of everyone's lives, basically, the messenger, voice of reason, I guess you could say. And then you have Cyril starting this new job on Gorman, and then kind of reporting back to Daedra and I don't remember his name, but the older man who were working at the ISB. Then you also have Will meeting up with Saw Gerrera. That's kind of episodes 4 and 5. And then you have Vel and Senta in episode 6. Now, and then Mon Mothma's kind of in and out of these episodes. So, to me, there are just so many plots going on. It's hard to keep track of. So, I guess the most engaging one to me overall is still Mon Mothma's plotline. She's been my favorite character basically from the first time she was introduced. I like her political storyline. I like the challenges she faces. I'm still a bit confused as to what the underlining theme with the rebellion is and what we're supposed to be looking for, because I get they're all building to something, but it's still tricky to follow because of everything going on. But, in these episodes, she's trying to get this bill passed and she's failing at it. And then in episode 6, they attend this party type thing. And we see a cameo from Bail Organa, which it was kind of cool. Leia's dad. He's kind of been all over the place, different actor and all, but it's kind of cool to see that character pop up from time to time in the universe. I was definitely a bit lost when she was arguing with Krennic. That was in episode 6, kind of this back and forth between that and other plot lines. I mean, look, here's the thing. There is some good stuff through these episodes. It's just so hard to follow. That's going to be the underlining theme here. So some of the highlights I would say is that Cassian and Bix had some good conversations in episode 4. There were these deep conversations. I think it made us understand both of their characters more, so that was great. Episode 5 had a good ending with Saw Gerrera and Willman and his whole speech, and I thought that was a pretty well done scene overall. I was kind of surprised by how intense it got, and I do think Saw Gerrera, while he is a good character, it just still feels so disjointed from the main plot. You think about it, there's 5 different plots going on. There's Bix and Cassian, and in this episode, Cassian was in Gorman, and then you have whatever Cyril's doing, and then back with Daedra and them, and then you have Mon Mothma's plotline, and then you have whatever Luthen is up to in his team, and then you have Klya, which is kind of connected to Luthen, but not always. It's just so hard to keep track of all these different moving plot lines and characters. I mean, the episodes are decently long, but it's just, I think it would have been better, honestly, if they had structured it differently. So, like, we were getting, like, maybe, like, 2 plots per episode, all leading up to something big in, like, episode 6 or something. And I get it's 3-episode arcs. I'm just not really a fan of the structure this season, and the writing's not awful. I mean, there's some good writing in here. Episode 6 was, I would say was the strongest. I still think episode 3 is the strongest of the season so far, but episode 6 did have good moments. We got the first kiss between Cassian and Bix. We got some tension between Luthen and Cassian. I liked all of that because it felt more real and I could understand it more. And I do think this show's kind of at its best when navigating these political and emotional tensions, especially when they're easy to follow, because not everything is easy to follow in this show. And maybe that's kind of the point. Maybe we're supposed to be confused and scratching our heads a bit, but I'm kind of more used to these simpler shows like teen dramas and all. Even The Mandalorian had a more simple vibe, but I still enjoy this show. I'm also don't do a lot of research into Star Wars related stuff and Empire and Rebellion and all of that. I think that's part of it too. Maybe if I had, I would understand some of this stuff better. I know my brother does a lot of that, so he tries to fill me in on what's going on, and there's some of this that's just still... And I think other people have had this complaint too about... I mean, some people say it's boring. It's kind of boring. It's not just that it's boring. It's that it's so heavy. Like, these plots are so heavy, and they're not all emotional. Some of them are just very wordy, and we connect better with the emotions as humans overall. I mean, some people connect better with, like, some of that heavy, like, research, analytics dialogue that some of this, like, Clios and Cyril's, some of their plot lines more based into that. But basically the main thing, I'm just kind of been filler up to this point. The main thing I wanted to talk about was Vel and Cinta. So we finally got the reunion this episode. They're helping Luthen, or they got assigned by Luthen to do this heist. And they're reconnecting, and they say they love each other, and they kiss. Now, this is like basically the first same-sex Star Wars kiss that we've ever gotten. It's a bit whoa for Star Wars, but I was not complaining. I enjoyed the scene. I thought the acting was great, the dialogue was great, and all of that. My only disappointment is when she died. Was when Cinta died. I mean, I know we probably should have expected a death because episode 3, Brasso died, and so episode 6, someone was going to die. However, it was so abrupt, and maybe if we had just, in episode 4 and 5, we had seen Vel and Cinta reconnecting, and in episode 6 she died, I would have been happier with that because at least we would have gotten more time with them. I mean, we gotten to Cinta a decent amount. I think part of it also is that because we haven't seen them together since last season, we just feel disconnected from their relationship. It's been so long, and we saw their little glance in episode 3 that kind of reminded us of their relationship, but like now we finally see them back together, and we just feel like we could have gotten so much more. And I get that the story had them separated, which is fine, but at least have them reunite like earlier on and then lead to this death, and it would have made it way more impactful. And maybe part of the lesson too is that like you never get to spend enough time with your loved ones before they die, maybe. I'm curious because Vel has been such a minor role this season so far. What does that mean for her character for these next arc? Is she gonna die? I could honestly see her dying. I just don't really see what she contributes after this. I mean, she like talks down on the kid who accidentally killed Cinta. But, like, where's that going to lead? Like, is this kid going to have a redemption arc? Is Vel going to learn to forgive him? I don't know. I just don't know where it goes. It's also kind of a bummer. Like, you do that to the lesbian couple. You have them, like, share their first kiss, and then 20 minutes later you kill one of them off. Like, doesn't that seem a little bit cheap? And, I get it for the story. Like, it worked for the story, I guess, to give us a death. I wasn't really shocked. I knew someone was going to die during that. I had a good feeling it was going to be Cinta. Just the way the whole episode was going, it just something felt like it was about to happen. But I'm just a little bit disappointed with how they handled that. But like but then again, episode 6 had some good moments, and I just think overall episode 3 was the strongest. so far of this season, and these 3 episodes, while it had some good moments, they were extremely hard to follow. Anyways, that's enough Andor talk, though I do hope these next 3 episodes are better overall. So, let's talk When Hope Calls real quick. This was episode 4. I thought episode 4 was good. This season's been great. I'm engaged in the plots. This episode specifically had this whole mystery about Jenny and her orphanage and her history and all of that. And while I didn't fully understand all of it, I do think it's pretty typical for people like her to have just these crazy stories, because when you start out in like either an abusive household or you just start out from the very bottom in general, then you try to work your way back up, but it's never a straight path. You're going to take these curves, and the curves are lies or messed up things that you end up doing. So I think that's the whole point of her character, is that she made mistakes, and you sometimes you win some, you lose some, and you gain some and you lose some. I mean, I think there's like a lot to her character, and we haven't really seen something like this, unless maybe in season 1 they had like something like this, but I don't remember seeing, because it's definitely kind of a new storyline to see like the other side of orphans. Like, in this show, the orphans obviously are overall pretty like, not, what's the right word, they're pretty one note, kind of like we don't really know a whole lot about their pasts. We know Charlotte's blind, but like beyond that, we know their interests and all. We just don't know much about their histories, and we just know that like they're fortunate because they have this home to live in. But not every orphan's like that. Some orphans just like don't have, like, he had like a rough rough upbringings, like they had a rough go at life. So this is the perfect example of that, and I think it's overall it was good. I didn't fully understand every single part of Jenny's plot. I mean, we know her name's Dolores. She lied about about being a part in orphanages. She's actually 18. Yeah, she's 18. So, but then Nora offers for her to stay on and help out. So that was nice and all. So the Lawrence Ranch is on auction. Tess puts her bid in for $15,000, but Hannah declines it, saying she's looking for other offers. This guy, what was his name? This guy, though, from Tess's past is in town, and he's here to bid on it. And it turns out that he is working with a corporation and try to get this ranch. The corporation basically is just going to mean bad things for the ranch, because they're pretty much going to destroy it. Like, so Tess and a few other ranchers in town, they have to come together and go up against this corporation by like splitting the costs for the ranch. Now, this doesn't end up working, and the corporation doesn't get it either, because Hannah decides she doesn't want to sell. She's going to run the ranch, she's going to own it, and she's going to keep Wyatt on as foreman, which really was not surprising at all, because while she doesn't really know anything about running a ranch, it's all too personal, and she saw all this arguing, and she knows that her uncle wouldn't have wanted this to be how his ranch went out, because there's so much tension. Like, there's this corporation that might destroy it, there's these ranchers that are coming together, but there's just so much angst, and there's just so many moving factors that to her it just seemed like the easiest thing for her to do was just decide not to sell and to keep it. Now, I don't know if it's really right to just cancel in the middle of the auction, but it's clear that she was spiraling. She didn't know what to do, so she just made the decision that felt right for her. Now, obviously, Tess is upset. She storms off at the end. I don't really know where she's going. But I don't know. I thought it made sense overall, and I did like the scene where she tells Nora that ranching's hard, but even harder without friends. And Nora says, "Who says you don't have any?" I mean, kind of a fast friendship, if you ask me. We haven't really seen a whole lot of them together, but alas, it was cute. We also see their teacher for the first time. I don't think we've ever seen their teacher before. I just assumed that Eleanor was teaching them, like, on the side at the orphanage. I didn't think they actually went to school, but alas, they do go to school, so it was kind of cool to see the teacher for the first time. We also have Sam, who's now working at the hotel. Now, he is just hopping from job to job every episode. It's so hard to keep track with him. He has his gold claim, and it's still not resolved yet, so he's just trying to figure out what he wants to do. Now, he kind of wants to buy a hotel, which is kind of random. He went from a ranch last episode to a hotel this episode. But basically, the whole kicker here is that Maggie bakes some baked goods, and nobody likes them, but everyone lies to her because they don't want to hurt her feelings. And then this leads to Sam eventually getting fired because he kept leaving the pastries out on there. And this was all hilarious. I'm sorry. But if someone makes something bad, I'm just going to go ahead and tell them straight up, because I don't want them to go around thinking that their food's good when it's not. There's, you could be like polite about it. You could just be like, hey, I'm not really a fan of this, but you don't have to lie. Like, yeah, I know some people say that when someone makes something bad, you're supposed to lie and say it's good, and that's the one time you can lie. No. I think there's times where maybe lying might almost be your best option in really messed up situations, but that should not be one of them. Just be honest and say you don't like the food. I mean, these people are grown adults and they were acting like children. So Sam gets fired from the hotel, and then Maggie finds out everyone hated her baked goods and all. So we'll see what Sam does next. I assume they'll resolve his land or his gold claim first, and then he'll decide what he wants to do after that. That's just my guess. I do think we'll see Maggie and Sam kiss at least, because just the way they're setting the relationships up this season, they're the most like far into their relationship. I could maybe see something happening between Nora and Michael, maybe. But I don't think Hannah and Wyatt. I think that'll be a next season thing. And honestly, I think we'll see Sam and Maggie. And then the other two couples will be more of a next season thing. If they're lucky to get a next season, to me, I think we will. I don't think they would bring out all these new characters for 6 episodes just to have it all go nowhere. So, that's just me, though. So the latest Marvel movie came out last weekend, Thunderbolts, and granted, I hadn't really paid attention to the trailers. I mean, it looked like your average Marvel movie, new characters. It looked like the Eternals 2.0. I wasn't really a big fan of the Eternals, to be honest. So, but nonetheless, though, this movie was great. Like the best Marvel movie since Endgame, you could say. I mean, definitely since COVID happened. The movies have been very hit or miss since then. But what I liked about this movie, I mean, the writing, the acting, all of that was great. It had good music, it had good humor. It had, I mean, the overarching thing of this movie that I liked was the focus on mental health, which makes sense, because if you know anything about me, you know I love I can't say I love mental health. I mean, I love having a good mental health. I love having conversations about mental health. I love advocating for it and all. So the fact that this movie dealt so much into mental health was so shocking to me, but it was so satisfying as well. We have this like group of people coming together, and we have this political tension on top with Val, and she's a senator. She's a senator. Yeah. And her assistant, I don't remember her assistant's name, I'm sorry, but she's the villain here. And then we have these group of Thunderbolts. We have Elena, we have Ghost, Walker, Bob, the Red Guardian, and then Bucky's also in this movie as well. So, we just had these like people coming together, and there's a lot of humor in there too at the start. But then it kind of grew into such a bigger thing. With these characters, we get to see flashbacks to their past. We get to see them navigating their trauma, having these important conversations with each other. It was just all great, and I was so surprised at this movie. I'm not going to really go into many spoilers with all of this. I mean, because, I want you to go and see the movie and experience it yourself. If it was a bad movie, I would probably just go ahead and spoil it, because you don't really, in that case, I would say you don't need to go see it. Just here, I'll tell you about it, so you don't have to go see it. But this is one of those where you need to go see it, because there are 6 of them, and going up against this one bad girl. But the villain didn't end up being the girl. The villain was the mental health. Like, the villain was the trauma, the void. There is literal void in this movie. That was the villain, and it's all these characters, mostly like just a few of them. Not all of them get fully, developed, but you get to see them all face their fears head on and just really wrestle with it throughout this movie. There's some action, there's some fight sequences too, but there was no weird creatures, octopus creatures in this movie. There was no just weird like I mean, I don't know. I was gonna say slow parts because I know the beginning of the movie started off kind of slow, but you're gonna have that with every movie. There was no weird romances thrown in. I mean, I do think some the thing with some of these recent movies is that the romance ended up being the best part, which is sucks because it shouldn't be. Thor, the most recent Thor, Love and Thunder, the romance to me was the best part of that, which sucks. It shouldn't be that way. It's just the way it ends up being if you have a sucky plot. But in this movie, they had everything, so they didn't even need the romance thrown in there. They had the actors, they had the writing, they had the emotional moments, they had like the fighting sequences, like the music, they had all of these things, and it really made it into a great movie. And in fact, I'm going to go see it tonight again for the second time. And I was going to just wait till after to record this podcast, but my week's so busy that right now, like, literally is the only time I could even record this. I would say, though, out of all these characters, my favorite one, I mean, I think Yelena was actually a really strong character. You don't always see strong, I don't want to say you don't always see strong female leads, but some of them have been not as great. And leads in general in these past few movies, like, you struggled to connect with them to the point where you almost like the supporting character more. But in this movie, the main character was actually really, like, solid and really well done. Like, you liked Yelena. So I think the writing was really strong too. And especially the scene with her and her dad when he tells her, when you were a child and you were on the soccer team, I think it was, like, you told me you wanted to be the one people could rely on. And so much philosophical stuff too. And then Val says to her assistant, you grow up thinking there's good and bad guys, but then you find out there's bad guys and then there's worse guys, which this connects so much into politics and our world right now. People's viewpoint in elections, it sometimes ends up being the bad guy and the worst guy. And which one do you vote for? Unfortunately, this past election, people voted for the worst guy, in my opinion, which is failed logic that I don't know. But regardless, though, there are so many big touching themes in this movie. So, some people I've heard say the movie looks trash, like they're not going to go see it. The only reason they would go see is Florence Pugh. Let me tell you, there's so much more that this movie has to offer. So you need to go see it. You need to go give it a chance. I promise you will come out of it feeling satisfied. And if not satisfied, you're going to come out of it feeling like it's still better than most of the Marvel movies that you've seen in the past 5 years, because it is better than the all those movies. So that's all I'm going to say about it. But comment down below your thoughts on the movie if you've seen it. So Heartland also got renewed for a season 19. Surprise, surprise. That's not surprising at all. So I don't really know what to expect. I mean, we know Amy and Nathan are going to be together, which will be great. We know that Nathan's sister Gracie is going to create a conflict for the Heartland and Price beef. So we'll see how that goes. Personally, though, I'm not really a fan of the beef wars. Like, season 18 made sense. More seasons of the beef wars, I just don't know if I could handle that. Like, I think they need some fresh plots. Like, I don't know what fresh plots look like, but like it's hasn't really been working, some of these plots, the last few seasons. Like, to me, I would be fine if they just had Amy go back to working with horses and that'd be her main plot, and then everyone else, like maybe even Jack retires. I mean, to me, I just feel like they've kind of been reusing a lot of the same plots, like Lou being the worst and stooping into everyone's business. Jack, Jack has great moments and all, but sometimes his whole age and everything, it makes it unrealistic of how much he can still do and how much he still moves around. So, I'm looking forward to this season as always. I just hope they take slightly different routes. And then the last thing is there's just some funny stuff with Trump. He posted a picture of him as like an AI Pope and then him as an AI Star Wars or Sith. That was so these things are just so funny and not in a good way. I think it's the Star Wars thing's kind of funny. The caption's not really funny, but the Star Wars picture's kind of funny. The Pope picture, though, it raises some concerns. it's definitely bizarre, and I heard a lot of people say, okay, this is too much. Like, if everything else he hasn't been doing wasn't too much already. I'm sorry. But, yeah, I think it's interesting how this kind of, the whole there's a bad guy and a worse guy just perfectly ties in to politics in general. And Andor has a lot of connections, too, with politics. Now, granted, I don't really fully understand the Andor connections. Like, Thunderbolts, to me, was way better than these 3 Andor episodes because it had, like, the mental health, but it was, like, more, like, relatable and emotional than Andor. That's just my opinion, though. But that's all I have for this episode. Let me know your thoughts on all of this down below, and I'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.